Alright everyone, it's the last week of Dragonflight. Dragonflight is officially over. Well, technically, not yet. About 4 days or so. 6 days actually. Well, it depends on when you watch the video. But I figured I'd just do a final, not rankings per se. This is not a DPS damage tier list. This is a fun tier list based on enjoyment and fun. So instead of, just redoing my top seven, I figured I'd just do a tier list. Why not? And I'll split this into two parts, melee and ranged. We're doing ranged right now. So I'm gonna put up a criteria on how I rank this. As you can see on the screen right now, you can see what I'm actually going to base this off of and how I'm going to rate these specs based on these bullet points. So like I said, damage is dead last because as much of a priority it is to play a DPS spec, I don't really base this on damage. If I'm not having fun with the spec and it's doing the most damage, I don't care. I'm going to switch. I'm not going to play something I don't like. I don't care how much damage I lose. So, this is all subjective. This is personal opinion. You can do what you want with this information, but this is just what I personally enjoy. And yeah, let's get started. I rank this tier list from green to red because I see a lot of, I know this is pretty irrelevant, but I don't know why red is always the best. Red should always be the worst. So, alright, so to start off, we have alphabetical order, the balanced druid. So boomies, I'm going to put them in great. Boomies are very, very simple to play, actually. You're a laser chicken. You're shooting lasers at people based on your eclipse. There's not much to it. Two of the hero talents they have is a Keeper of the Grove and Elun's Chosen. Keeper of the Grove makes no sense to me whatsoever playing Boomy. When I tested this spec as Keeper of the Grove, I had no clue what the treants were supposed to be doing. I don't get it. But when I went to Elun's Chosen, it did make more sense then. You just have more lasers and you're basically pushing Fury of Elune or your big old moon, what is it called, full moon ability. You're just buffing the crap out of them. So thematically and visually, it's stunning. I think Boomy looks amazing. Literally looks amazing. Like, I'm not talking about their damage. They literally look amazing. They play like they kind of always do. You're juggling between Solar Eclipse and Lunar Eclipse, and then when you hit Lunar Eclipse, you just pop off your AoE abilities. You go to Solar Eclipse, you pop off your single target abilities. There's not much change. Boomy just looks the way they always have in Dragonflight. Now it's just more lasers. So they're going to be in great tier. Damage wise, I know I'm not going to talk a lot about that. It's okay, I guess. You're not doing bad damage, but you're not doing the greatest either. I think they ramp up in bigger keys when things are, living a lot more. But in lower keys where everything dies before your damage goes out, you're not going to be doing all that great. But in terms of fun, they're great. They're in great tier. Alright, now for our next spec. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna start right there. Augmentation Evoker is not a DPS spec. If you're playing Augmentation for doing damage, you're not in the right spec. This is not a damage dealing spec. It's just listed that way because there's no support role for it. It's just there. When I played the spec in beta and when it got released, I was pretty excited because I saw the hero talents and I went in there and I said, "Oh, I'm a flying lizard buffing people using earthbending. Cool, that's cool, right?" It's really okay, I guess. I mean, I don't really feel like I'm doing much, even though I am, but I don't really understand the spec, to be honest with you. I don't really. I like the rotation. It's super simple. It's very easy to just. You're just pushing Eruption, Living Flame, Fire Breath, and then you're just keeping up your Ebb and Might. However, I'm sorry. However, because your spells are dictated on your group, and where you put your prescience, where you have to use your AoE cooldowns or just cooldowns in general, it's based on your group. So it has to line up with what the group is doing. Blistering scales on your healer, your tank, something like that, and I don't get it. It's okay to me. It feels like a spec that doesn't really have an identity. So this is where I'm putting it. It's not a DPS spec, I know. It's just not for me though. It's okay. All right, so We're gonna go to its brother, Devastation. I'm gonna put Devastation in great tier. Devastation, I think that Devastation is outshadowed because Augmentation Evoker exists. However, in terms of fun, it is pretty good fun. You have 2 hero talents, Scale Commander, and what is the other one? Let me see. Flame Shaper, yeah. I think Scale Commander is the better one of the two. Scale Commander, you're having bombardments with your abilities, make everybody else do more damage. Augmentation has the same. I'm sorry. And you have the triple Disintegrate, the Mass Disintegrate. I think it's the most fun thing about this whole spec. However, the only problem with that is your aggro. I think they fixed it. I think Blizzard fixed the aggro issue when it comes to evokers. You're taking threat off the tank all the time, especially with the Flame Shaper hero talent. I don't know what it is, but you're like taking threat, taking aggro for some weird odd reason. I don't know why you're doing it, but I like the playstyle of Evoker. It's probably one of the easiest specs you can get into when you're playing ranged DPS. You just Fire Brave, you're just keeping your dots up, you're just putting Shattering Star, your Fire Breath, Eternity Surge on however many targets you hit, and then you press Disintegrate, and then you press Disintegrate, and then you press Disintegrate, and then you press Hover, and then you press Disintegrate. So it's a lot of Disintegrates, even on AoE, but if you pick the Flame Shape or Hero Talent, you can use Engulf, which basically eats your dots, and then you can pick Firestorm everywhere. So Firestorm's getting a comeback. It never got a lot of love in Dragonflight. You didn't really even touch that talent. But points to Devastation, I think, in terms of fun. I hope Devastation sees more play, unless, Blizzard doesn't buff it or anything, because Augmentation being in the same group as Devastation, you're not gonna get a lot of yeah, it's not gonna be very popular, I guess is the word. Alright, so we're gonna move on to, oh my gosh, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Beastmaster is dead last in terms of anything at all in the War Within. I'm sorry, if you like BM Hunter, all power to you, but in terms of fun, visuals, thematics, gameplay, it is dead last in every comprehensible list of every single spec I've played ever. There is nothing good coming out of this spec. There's no impact on its abilities. You're stuck with the 2 worst talent trees in the entire game in Pack Leader, which is by far the worst hero talent tree in the entire game, and then Dark Ranger, which was marketed as a fantastic option back when it launched, turned out to be a complete dud. And it's crap. I'm sorry. You can move while casting, you can move while doing all your abilities, but it feels so bad to play this spec. There's no visually pleasing, no rotationally. If there even is a rotation, there's nothing to do. I don't see how people play this thing. Me personally, I played it for like 5 minutes, and I couldn't take it anymore. I switched out. I went to Marksman because and then Survival, which I had a blast with. But no, I'm sorry. If you like BM, that's sure, why not? Anyway, we're just gonna go to the next one. Marksman. Marksman is going to be at the top of great. Marksman feels about the same as it did back in Dragonflight. Daft Dracum's gone. Thank goodness it's gone. It feels very impactful. All your abilities feel absolutely. It feels like you're actually doing damage, as opposed to yeah, the other spec that I just covered. Aim shot actually feels like you're hitting things with a train, especially in AoE. By the way, your AoE when you pick Sentinel is, I think, the best burst AoE in the game while your true shot is up, and then you go back to single target, which, tickles people. I know I said I'm not gonna cover damage, but it is one of the biggest, I guess the biggest draw for a marksman right now is your AoE and how good it is. I mean, your AoE is very, very good as marksman. Now, the one thing I don't like about marksman is obviously the Dark Ranger hero talent makes no sense. it doesn't do much for marksman. The sentinel is amazing. I mean, not amazing, but it's pretty good. But your single target's an issue, a huge issue actually. That and lone wolf that they still really didn't really address. It's like you wanna actually not use a pet, but they made it so you can use a pet. I don't know. It's in a weird spot right now. I think a lot of people have issues with lone wolf that people have complained about. A lot of hunters that played since since lone wolf was actually introduced that they've always had issues with it. And I do too. I have issues with lone wolf. Just remove it or just do something else. I mean, just make it make sense, I guess. But marksman in general is not a hard spec to learn. It's very easy. In my opinion, it's pretty much one of the easiest specs. I think it's easier than Boomy and Devastation. Yeah, that's what I really think it is. Explosive shots, visually pleasing, very nice. Your rapid fire looks amazing, and you can have barrage rapid fires, which shoots literal chain guns of rapid fires at your enemies. So it's visually very, very good. I'm gonna put marksman at the top of my great list for now. Okay. Well, I'm gonna cover all three main specs all at once because they're all in amazing tier. Just a spoiler. I know, I know. It's pretty obvious at this point that all three main specs are fantastic when it comes to visual identity, what they did with the talent trees, all of them. Even Spellslinger that isn't even that flashy in Arcane Mage. That's how good it is. I know it's the poster stepchild of Blizzard for Mage to be always the top, either one of them, even though Fire right now is in the dumpster in damage-wise. But you still have Arcane, you still have Frost. And Arcane, I did mention in my top 7 list when I put it as number 2 that it is the best ranged DPS class that I've played all the way up in the beta till now, and it has not changed. It is still the best ranged DPS spec that I've played since they reworked it. It is amazing. It is still amazing. Although Sun Fury right now is taking up its spot. I mean, I think Sun Fury is doing more damage than Spellslinger is, but who cares? Whatever you play, you're still gonna do massive damage. You're still gonna be you're still gonna have a lot of fun with it. Arcane brings it with it. As a mage, obviously, you have insane utility. You're blinking everywhere. You're popping lust everywhere. You can't die basically, and you just have a ton of crowd control. Flame, I don't know, fire breath or something like that. I can't remember. Either way, mage, all three specs, amazing. Arcane, the best DPS spec I've played, ranged, at least for ranged. Fire, still very fun, even with Sun Fury and Frost, especially Frostfire. Frostfire is amazing. And Frost, Spellslinger still good on Frost. It's not very flashy. It's rotationally wise, all three main specs are about as pretty easy. The Frost being the standout, more easiest spec out of all of them. You can't go wrong playing Mage. You really can't. I don't care how much they nerf the spec. You're gonna have fun with it. And like I said, playing as a mage, it doesn't matter which spec sucks the worst. You're a mage. You're gonna do well with either one of them going in. Alright, so Shadow. Shadow's next. Shadow is going to be, believe it or not, okay. I know, the Void Weaver stuff, the spell changes, the spell effects that they changed for Shadow, very impressive, I understand. However, I don't really enjoy it as much as people think. I think the reason I really don't enjoy it is because, well, Entropic Rift being attached to Void Torrent, making it castable with moving, yeah, that's really great, but that's all your AoE. I kind of miss Mines here, to be honest with you. I know Psychic Link is still your AoE. However, it doesn't feel, I don't know, I can't describe it. It doesn't feel fun. And I know there's also like, the Archon hero talent and stuff like that. With your halo going off, the pulsing halo, that's fun too. I mean, not fun. That's impressive also, but there's just something off about Shadow. I can't put my hand on it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Shadow Crash or just the Void form or something. I don't know. Visually, it's stunning, but I generally, in my opinion, I don't enjoy the gameplay. I don't know. I can't describe it, but I just don't enjoy it. It's not boring. It's not terrible, but it exists. I think it's because there's just more for other specs that I enjoy that it's in this place. I don't know. Shadow just doesn't feel impressive to me. I think that's what it is. I don't know. Anyway, we're moving on. Elemental, amazing. That is the fourth amazing spec I've have in my tier list, and for good reason. Elemental has gotten a rework like Hunters did. However, both of Elemental's hero talents are absolutely awesome. Farseer is still I think it's a bit of the same thing from Dragonflight. You're chunking meatballs at people when Primordial Wave is on the target, and you're just using the same rotation as you have now, I think. And you got these ancestral spirits that pop up, duplicate your spells, and you do insane damage. Elemental right now, I think it's looking like the best single target. I think of the range DPS, but I can't be sure. But like I said, that's not the point. But visually, thematically, gameplay, awesome. I've said it before. Elemental looks like the best visual range DPS spec in the entire game when it comes to just the sheer load of just spell effects. I mean, Lava Burst on its own looks amazing. Now you put Chain Lightning and Stormkeeper together, you're like a Palpatine on steroids, and then you're just it's earthquake. It's super fun. However, I will say this about Elemental though, the rotation when it comes to Farseer, as simple as it is, it's a little bloaty. At least to me, it is. There's just too much going on, I think. And I think Elemental right now with the new Sky Fury, rate buff and with enhancement and Risto also getting it, it feels like you're more mandated, I guess. You're more required now in the group, and it's a good and a bad thing because you leave a lot less space for other specs to play with. But Elemental, who cares? Elemental's still really fun. Right now, it's still one of my top specs in the beta going into War Within. It's definitely one I will play, but I think out of all the specs I have in Amazing tier, I think Mage still wins just because they have two other specs with it. Three specs, I'm sorry. Elemental is definitely up there. I'm definitely gonna play it, but I think still impressive. Still impressive. It's not a knock on how bad Shaman are or whatever, but there's just too much. There's just too many specs right now that's fun. So that's where we are. All right, I'm rambling on a little bit. Let's better hurry up. All right, Affliction. I did put Affliction in my top 4 in my last list. However, this time around, I'm gonna have to put it in Great. It's gonna be in front of Boomy and right behind Marksman. Reason for that is well, the other two specs are better now. Demo and Destro, I'm going to put right above them actually. And Destro, I'm actually going to put Destro ahead of Marksman in terms of fun. Actually, no, let me flip-flop that. Demo's actually in front of jeez, how do you do this? Yeah, Demo's actually in front of Marksman. Because Diabolus is actually working now. Before, I think there was a bug where Diabolus wasn't doing any damage or wasn't hitting as hard as it should be. And they've kind of like smoothed out the rotation. They gave it some more buffs to where you actually understand the rotation. Affliction, however, not much difference than the last time I covered it, so I'm not gonna put too much footage about that. I do still like Affliction. I just think that the other two specs ahead of it they have more identity now that Blizzard actually knows what they're doing with the buffs and the damage that they have for it, so you actually get a flow of a rotation going. So now that you do, I think Destro it pulls ahead by just a little bit, and Demo I think takes a little bit of a leap forward because, well, visually you're summoning a horde of minions with Diabolus, and I think in general I think Diabolus is what's taking over the entire Warlock spec right now, or class. Diabolus is so good as a hero talent that it just overshadows whatever Hellcaller or Soul Harvester that Affliction has. But don't get me wrong, Affliction is still fun. It's just that the rotation it has right now is obviously it's a dot spec, so you're not going to see a lot of visuals. But it's not as fun as it is. I mean, I'm sorry, I take that back. It's still as fun as it is. It's just Destro and Demo is just now leaping above it. So nothing fundamentally wrong with Affliction. It's still as fun as it is. It's just Destro and Demo right now, since your identity has been more fleshed out, you know exactly what to do with it. Destro, I still think Hellcaller is a bit of a dud, even though it's amazing for Affliction. And compared to Diabolist, it's really hard to beat Diabolist in any kind of hero talent tree, except if unless you're a mage. But yeah, it's about where it needs to be. But you know, so yeah, that about covers it for the range DPS specs. Let me know what you think of my list. If you like any of it, if you like where I put any of it, just let me know. Let me know what you think, what you're gonna main, and we'll go on to the melee DPS one here in a little bit. I will see you for the next video.